June 18th, 2024. Please join me in Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Getting right into our agenda items. Number 3A, Resolution 2405094B, adopting the budget, making appropriations, levying, and categorizing taxes for 2024-2025. Madam Treasurer.
And you are meeting as the governing body of the library.
We are meeting as the governing body of the Library Service District for this agenda item.
So this is the resolution for the Library Service District to adopt the budget and make appropriations and levy and categorize taxes for fiscal year 25.
I move we approve and sign resolution 2405094B.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will adjourn as the Library Governing Board and reconvene as the County 4-H and Extension Service District Board. Resolution 2405095B, adopting the budget, making appropriations, levying, and categorizing taxes for 2024-2025.
Yes, that.
Yes, that. Do you have a motion?
I move we approve and sign resolution 2405095B.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Close it.
Okay, and we are closing as the governing board of the 4-H Extension Service, reconvening as the Board of Commissioners. Item 4A, sale of certain county forest land. Master Forester Lance Morgan, good morning.
More lands.
Pursuant to advertisements which appeared in the World newspaper dated June 4th and June 11th, 2024, public hearing will be held June 18th, 2024 at 9:30 to hear public comments on the sale of certain county forest lands for ORS 275.330. The parcel of land is known as approximately a 6-acre portion of county forest land contained within tax account 542303, Township 26 South, Range 13 West, Section 32, Tax Lot 501. The proceeds from the sale will be deposited in the Forest Parks Trust Fund. After the hearing, and if the board finds it in the best interest of the county to sell this parcel at private sale, order number 24-06-020L has been prepared and is ready for signature. What this little piece is, for everybody, it's a little point on the county forest on the north end that the water system to the Baloney Boys Ranch is on. It's not really manageable as forest land, and it'll be sold with the Boys Ranch for the water system.
North end or south end?
North end.
North end.
Oh, it's on the south end, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
North
There
end of
you
our
go.
forest.
Yeah. North end.
And that accommodates the water system for
Yeah.
the Baloney Boys Ranch
Yeah.
and
Holding tanks, water system.
enhances the value of the property,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I
Very
move
good.
that we approve and sign order 2406.
Well, hold on.
Whoops.
This is a public hearing, so to see if there is any comment on the sale of this forest land.
Don't you do a motion to, okay.
Or you can
whatever.
open up the hearing, I suppose,
Okay.
the motion to open up the hearing.
All right, so how about a motion to open the public hearing on this question?
I move we open the public hearing on the sale of this described land.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any discussion on the sale of this small parcel of county forest land? everybody understand what we're doing. We're selling 6 acres of county forest that accommodates the water system for the Bologna Boys Ranch and facilitates the sale of that property. Seeing no discussion, I will close the public hearing. And we can, I believe, can we go ahead and vote on, do we need to vote on anything else, or is that it for this, Counselor?
So now you'll move to discussing and if you approve of the language of the order, signing the order 2406020L. There is one thing to note. This is an unusual piece of forest land in that it's part of a larger parcel that is not forest land. And so this order, in an attempt to grapple with that concept, it states that 36% of the proceeds from the sale of Bologna Boys Ranch property as a whole will be put toward into the Forest Trust Fund. And that 36% represents the 6 acres of forest land as a percentage of the overall 16.59 acres of the parcel. So
Right.
it would be 36% of the proceeds going to Forest Trust Fund.
Okay.
And if that's an appropriate way of calculating it, you can go ahead and sign the order. If you want to, reconsider that, go ahead.
What?
The other part of the land has a building on it.
Right.
It would seem to me that part,
Yeah,
that we should just use the acreage to
no.
determine what the division of proceeds should be.
Should be based on acreage, should be based on total value.
Yeah, and I don't know if the appraisal of the property went so far as to give an idea of what acres are worth.
We
what.
may
So,
have
I
to
mean,
set this aside for later, then when we find out what the value of the 6 acres and the total value is. Because I'm not agreeing with the percentage of just acres.
Yeah, since the bare land has a totally different value than developed land with buildings, so, yeah, let's,
Table this.
yeah, we'll table this for a recalculation, a consultation on that value established. You could either look at the 10-acre parcel as if it were not developed, what would it be worth? And the 6-acre parcel, which also is the same way, and use that comparison as an analysis. Or you could look at the 10 acres with the buildings on it the way it is, and the 6 acres bare, estimated value, and work the percentage from that.
One
Either-
thing I'd like to
either
point
way.
out on that is that we asked, or Cole asked somebody about what that water system was worth, and it's like $25,000 to $30,000 for that water system, just FYI.
Yeah,
So that should be calculated
Taken
into
into
that
account.
number as well.
right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll second Mr. Chair.
Motion to table?
Commissioner Sweet's motion to table.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would you want to
Motion
schedule
to
a meeting
table.
with the appraiser? Maybe get his impression on what the.
Well, just,
Perhaps this is something that could just be handled with a simple phone call to the appraiser.
actually, I'd rather have it emailed so it's in writing.
That would be better. I hope it doesn't require another appraisal process. I would think he should be able to establish an estimated calculation. Doesn't have to be exact, but just pretty close.
Ballpark.
So do you want to do that on email, or would,
I could do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I do suggest that we have a work session or something, or a follow-up, just to have the board approve the order as modified.
Okay.
We'll schedule that.
all right, we'll do that. Okay, very good. 5A, this is also, thank you, Lance. Counselor, Order 2406017L, granting rate adjustments for Waste Connections DBA Less Sanitary for J&L Sanitation, Inc. of Myrtle Point. Counselor?
Yeah, so this is an order to adjust franchise rates for Waste Connections doing business as Less Sanitary. This would be an increase of 4.95%. my understanding is that these rate adjustments are sort of annual, recurring thing.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, move to approve order 2406017L, requested rate increase is set out above.
Second?
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Yes, Mr. Brown.
This isn't about this subject, it was about the last subject, about the sale of Orange Ranch. And I was wondering, after hearing last night that there's groups of people that don't have to pay property tax, is there any way to make sure when you do sell it, that it's somebody that has to pay property tax?
I don't know if we can, discriminate the purchasing body on that basis, but that is certainly something to
Yeah,
consider.
because it's not really fair that they get to buy property and not pay property tax when.
It's
a lot of our
problematic.
Stuff is.
Agreed, it's problematic. Thank you for raising that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so any discussion on this agenda item? Right? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 5B, Order 2406018L, granting rate adjustments for Waste Connections DBA Less Sanitary for abandoned disposal and recycling, and Less County Sanitary Services. Same program as the last item, different community, same rate. That pretty much sums it up. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve order 2406018L and requested rate increase is set out above.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
Nope.
For purposes of clarity, it's not exactly the same rate.
Well, it's the same percentage
Percentage
increase. Yes,
increase.
correct.
Right.
So unfortunately, Bidenomics is real, and our inflation nationally has been something to contend with. This 4.95% increase is part of what we're all seeing happen. So any discussion in the room? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And item 5C, Order 2406019L, granting rate adjustments for Waste Connections DBA Less Sanitary for Babes Garbage Service, which is, where is Babes?
Powers.
Myrtle,
Oh, yeah, okay,
Myrtle Point
all right.
Powers.
So this is also a 4.95% increase, resulting in a $1.50 a month increase for 35-gallon service. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve order 2406019L, requested rate increase is set out above.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the board?
No, I'm just
Okay.
hoarse this morning, I can't hardly talk.
Better horse than a mule.
Yes.
Any discussion in the room?
Not necessarily.
Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And now before us, item 5D, a resolution 2405093B, adopting the budget, making appropriations, levying and categorizing taxes for 2024-2025. Madam Treasurer, good morning again.
Pretty much said it.
Pretty much said it. So let's explain to the room that what we're doing here is adopting the budget as discussed and passed previously, which of course required that we pass the budget as if the public safety levy would pass, which it did not. So this is really just a legal requirement that we go ahead and authorize this today. And obviously we are going to have to reconvene on the budget after July with the failure of the public safety levy. So this is a fairly meaningless maneuver, but it is legally required. Any, do I have a motion?
I move we approve and sign Resolution 2405093B.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
No, sir.
No? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
Mr. Rowley will be up next. This is item 5E, intergovernmental agreement with Coos Bay School District.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
So we are requesting to enter into a contract with the Coos Bay School District to provide them 4 FTE of school-based therapists. Last year it was 3, so they're requesting an additional therapist. So we have 3 existing staff, and we will be recruiting for another.
Okay.
I move we approve an IGA with the Coos Bay School District and authorize Department Mike Rowley to sign.
No, second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the board?
Compensation, will these 166,000 roughly a year, is that for all 4?
Yes, it is.
And so do they use part of their time elsewhere besides the school?
No, they don't. And it's blended funding. We have some fee-for-service funding, some funding that they pay for, and some
I see.
funding from the state. So it really makes it reasonable for 4 people for $166,000.
Okay.
These are important positions.
And I'd like to clarify again for the room that that these are not none of these funds come from county property taxes or the county general fund. It has no relationship or bearing to our budget discussions we'll have later this afternoon. No relationship to the general fund. Any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5F, contract with South Coast Regional Early Learning Hub, SCREL. Good morning, Dr. Lynch.
Good morning.
And I'm sorry.
Kathy Cook.
Hello, Kathy. Nice to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Tell us about this one.
We're requesting approval for the contract with South Coast Regional Early Learning Hub. This is a Safer Homes project. It was a grant that we applied for. The grant amount is $6,825 through the South Coast Regional Early Learning Hub. This is a repayment grant. We will use these funds to help families that are in the home visiting, which Kathy Cooley, the nurse that runs the home visiting department, and our WIC department will use these funds for safer items like baby gates, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide testers.
Okay.
The payment, we will pay first for these items, and then South Coast Regional Early Learning Hub will pay us back for it until the funds have been exhausted on a quarterly basis.
Okay. Have a motion?
I move we approve the contract with South Coast Regional Early, with South Coast Regional Early Learning Hub and authorize Department Head Mike Rowley to DocuSign.
Second.
All right. Can you say that 5 more times really fast?
Stumbled through the first 2.
All right.
Bad
Any
enough.
discussion on the board?
No.
Any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day. Our Roads Department, 5G. Request BOC approval to repair our CAT grader not to exceed $46,500. That transmission just gets worse and worse, doesn't it, Paul?
Well, yeah, we didn't have any additional costs with the actual transmission. That stayed with the price we had. But the additional costs were, while we were in there, there's a lot of hoses and lines that run right through that area that are replaceable. They're soft hoses, they're not fixed metal hoses.
Uh-huh.
So that was the time to replace them because,
You're
we
in
don't
there.
plan on taking the transmission out again.
Right.
So while we're there, it made sense. The machine has enough hours to just replace all that while we're there. So that's why the additional cost.
Okay.
I move we approve repair cost to our cat grader in an amount not to exceed $46,500.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the board?
Sure.
Any discussion in the room? Nobody volunteering to fix it for free? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Paul. 5H, order for sale of real property pursuant to ORS Chapter 271. Counselor.
Yeah, this order is more of a formality. It allows the board to list the two former properties of Baloney Boys Ranch to be sold through a real estate firm as opposed to a public auction. So yeah, the board is finding that it's better to market the properties that way than through an auction under ORS Chapter 275.
Okay, very good. Any discussion, or can I have a motion?
I move we approve and sign order 2406021L, authorizing the sale of real property pursuant to ORS Chapter 271.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
So if people don't know, once Baloney Boys Ranch went out of business, it reverted back to the county under deed.
And there are two properties. One you see just south of the, what is the name of the horse riding facility? Family
Well,
Farm, family.
Not anymore.
Not
It's
anymore.
Rocking S now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's along Highway 101. And then there's another property that's less visible off of, again, slipping on road.
Shingle House and
Shingle
Carl.
House.
Yeah.
Carl Road. And they're unique properties, and we felt that it would be better to put these, sell these through a real estate agent rather than just auctioning them off.
And I'll comment that I think it's been our position as a board that we would have preferred to see the Baloney Boys Ranch continue. They provided a great value to the county and the people here, as well as people who came from other parts of the state for aspects of rehabilitation. There are young people, and the Carl Road property was nice to have here because they helped to rehabilitate victims of human trafficking. And so it's a shame to see those go away, but if you know anybody who's interested in one or two great pieces of property to provide any kind of service to a number of people like that, that would be our preference, to see something like that continue in the county rather than have it go to, caddy housing or something like that. Anyway,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I went to some of the presentations by the kids at the Boys Ranch. It was heartbreaking. Some of the stories those kids had that they'd already been through, which you would never go through in a lifetime. It's just heartbreaking. So it's really sad to see them go out of business.
Yeah, pretty neat properties though. Anyway, okay. Any discussion in the room? Chris?
Chris Castleman from Coos County. I was just wondering if there was any discussion or any attempt to reach out to like the Devereaux Center or AYA, Alternative Youth Activities.
Yeah,
They're well aware of it.
yeah, we've had those conversations.
Would it be possible to rent it to them instead of to sell it? Because I don't think they have funds to buy it. That's something that they would be interested in, or the county would be interested in.
Well, the Devereaux Center was not interested because it's too remote from the services that they deem essential. Although, as a county, I think that we agree that that would be a a better location for them, but they're not interested in it. AYA, would it make sense to lease the property to AYA? I don't know that that's a possibility that's even been brought up. I don't recall having heard that one before.
I have talked with them on the item coming up next, 5I, about it, and they're interested in purchasing.
Okay, very cool.
Okay, so good suggestion though, thank you. Any other discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Item 5I. Not to be confused with the 5 I's. List for sale the former Bob Baloney Boys Ranch site, account number 542303, land agent Cole Waddington. Good morning, Cole.
Morning. So can we still go ahead with this, or is this table okay? Yeah, so the same property we're talking about, the former Bob Baloney Ranch property, account number 542303. Would like to list with our Realtor record and also authorize the land agent me to sign the listing agreement.
Okay.
I move we approve listing of the former Baloney Boys Ranch property, and we're speaking this time of just the one along Highway 101, account number 542303, and authorize land agent to sign the listing agreement.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
To be clear with what we've done, the first step was to authorize the sale of the 2 properties that we received back from Baloney Boys Ranch. The second motion, this one, is to list the property along Highway 101 with a real estate agent. And then we'll have to take further action on the other property later.
Actually, the board has previously approved listing the.
Oh, that we
the
did,
Call
that's
Road.
right, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Any other discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5J, thank you, Cole. CDBG Emergency Regional Child Care Assistance Program Amendment Number 2. Hi again, you look familiar.
So this is a grant that has been going on forever. And we just need to amend the end date so we could get our final draw money and close it out.
Okay.
Move to approve and authorize chair to sign amendment number 2 for the Emergency Regional Child Care Assistance Program, IA 2209.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And 5K. Good morning, Mr. Jansen. Do you want to join us on this one? This is the request the Board of Commissioners to approve and sign the contract with Helion Software, which both departments use.
So this is our tax assessment and collection software that we use every year. This is just
Yep,
the contract for next year.
very good.
Yes,
Yeah.
she said.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Go ahead, Bob.
Move to approve and sign the contract with Helion Software for ORCAT software services from 7/1/24 to 6/30/25 and adult sole source findings.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Yes, Chris.
Just a question, is this already budgeted?
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it split equally between the 2 departments, or is it all in one department's budget?
It's all in the finance department budget. It's all in the general fund anyways, so it doesn't make sense to split.
Just wondering where to find it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And just a reminder, when you approach the mic for comments, we do need your name and residence each time. I know it sounds silly, but it's for the sake of the recording and complying with our legal requirements for public meetings. Okay, any other discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you both. Moving on to the Sheriff's Department, agenda item 5L. Declare equipment number 16222, 16223, 165027, 165028 surplus and approve to donate to Jackson County Sheriff's Department. Good morning, Sheriff. Good morning, Captain.
Morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Just that, it's the items in question are Beta motorcycles. They're from 2009. We don't currently have anybody trained to ride them safely. They're not terribly safe vehicles, and there's really not a lot of benefit over the UTVs as far as accessibility with them. Additionally, donating them will get them off our books, so we don't have to pay insurance. So it might save a little money. So, since we're not going to use them, not interested in using them because they are so unsafe, we're going to give them to Jackson County.
Okay.
I move we declare equipment numbers 16222, 16223, 165027, and 165028 as surplus equipment and approve donating them to Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? I have something. So, I'm wondering if these had so little value that we couldn't seek to sell them on public surplus or something. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we are in a budget crisis, and Jackson County, their sheriff has a really beautiful office facility there. I mean, it looks
we're
pretty.
actually kind of doing a horse trade. They're giving us some, I don't remember exactly what it was, but something for search and rescue.
Okay.
And what was it?
Van. It's 15-passenger van.
A 15-passenger van. And in turn, we're giving them one working motorcycle and 3 parts.
Okay. That resolves all of my questions. Thank you, Captain. Any other discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And let's move to your late agenda item 7B, since you guys are already at the table. You like how I slid that in there for you? Thank you. Hate to see you have to go back and forth. Okay, this is 7B, request approval of Centric Elevator contract and board signature.
This helps in the jail. We have to have it for ADA compliance and needs to be maintained. So it's $16,000 it's budgeted for. That's an annual cost.
Okay, motion?
Move to approve and sign contract with Centric Elevator for the jail.
Second.
Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Nobody wants to vie for an elevator repair contract? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And back to regular agenda, item 5M, payment of the CCSO fuel bill, our monthly exercise to approve your fuel bill. You don't even need to say it. How about a motion?
Move to approve spending authority not to exceed $30,000 in order to pay the Coos County Sheriff's Office fuel bill for the month of June.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room?
Nobody hopping up to pay it? Haven't
Nobody
seen
hopping
anybody?
up? No, that's not happening.
Okay.
Okay, so seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up is County Surveyor, item 5N, Resolution 2406097B, Transfer of Appropriations. Good morning, Mr. Dato.
Good morning.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. So, due to a shortfall in the Land Corner Preservation Fund, we need to fund the payroll expenses from the general fund
Okay,
for the remainder of the year.
all right. We have a motion.
I move we approve and sign Resolution 2406097B.
A second?
Motion and a second. The Property Corner Preservation Fund is a fund that receives monetization with each property sale that's recorded in the county. A certain amount goes into this fund, and that pays the county surveyor crew to go out and identify these old section corners throughout the county, which is important to their ability and other surveyors' ability to properly locate parcels that they're working on. So there have been fewer real estate transactions, so there's less money in that fund, hence this agenda item to transfer appropriations. Okay, any other discussion on the
Well, I
board?
should mention it, it's $45,470. So go forth and buy and sell lots of land, so we don't have to dig that out of it.
Yes. Any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you, Mike. Have a great day. This is Community Corrections, item 5O. Right in under the wire. Good morning, Mr. Krim.
Good morning, Commissioners.
This is approval of intergovernmental agreement number 6526, amendment number 1 between the State of Oregon Department of Corrections and Coos County.
Yes, here to ask the board to approve the IGA with the Department of Corrections. This comes from House Bill 5204. It's $314,815 funding for community corrections for 23-25. State grant and aid is a source. Ask you to approve the IGA.
I move we approve IGA number 6526, amendment number 1, between the State of Oregon and Coos County, and authorize chair to sign.
A second?
How specifically is this money to be used? Is it just general operations in your department?
General operations for community corrections. So supervision of criminal offenders.
I assume in the background and description section of this cover sheet, we just have a typo here. It says approval of agreement number 6525, but the title and the motion are both 6526.
Yeah, 6526.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right.
Oh,
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on the board?
change the motion to reflect that typo.
Well, no, because you got your motion correct.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. And we also have a 5P for Community Corrections, transfer of appropriation for Community Corrections Resolution 2406096B.
Yeah, ask the board to approve the transfer of the $1,604. We share split money 3 ways from criminal fines that come in, and with the jail, and with the juvenile. And it came in higher than we thought, and the state sent us that money. So ask the board to approve the transfer of that money via resolution 2406096.
Okay.
No. Approve and sign resolution 2406096B.
B.
That was,
And I second it.
was that a motion, Commissioner Main?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Point out, again, it's $1,604.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as you cost us, Mike.
But he's worth every penny.
I know you.
Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
5Q, this is the Juvenile Department.
I don't see anybody. in
Request approval of IGA 14812, NKA 14812A with Oregon Youth Authority for increasing individual expunction reimbursement and authorized chair to sign.
Mr. Chair, I don't see Brian or Jenna, so
You
Well-
want- Can we just do it without them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we
let's
can.
just go
Let's just
ahead.
look at it. So The Oregon Youth Authority has increased the reimbursement amount of mandated expunctions through Senate Bill 575 and Senate Bill 519, increased from $206.15 to $257.70 per qualified expunctions. So they're requesting approval of IGA 1412 NK. Well, actually, I'll just leave that for a motion.
Okay. Move to approve IGA 14812, not what, NKA 14812A with OYA, increasing individual expunction reimbursement, authorized chair to sign.
I second that. We'll note it's almost $93,000.
Yep.
We won't say no to that. Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
Nope.
Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We're plowing right through these. This is great. 5R, Oregon Educators Benefit Board. In the HR department, the inimitable Caroline Morgan. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
Mhm.
Coos County has a contract in place to provide motor health insurance to some of our employees, probably about 130 employees, through Oregon Educators Benefit Board. Open enrollment for that is coming up October 1st, and I would like to offer one extra plan for employees to opt into. So increasing the options to 4 different plans for employees to choose from. Request board approval to add Motor Medical Plan 2 to the list of plans employees may select during open enrollment. This will be cost neutral for all employees under AFSCME, but will have some additional expense depending on, for the district attorneys, depending on which plan that they choose. And those costs for each employee under the district attorneys would range anywhere from $1.60 per month to $4.95 per month, depending on their plan selection.
Okay.
I move we approve modification to the OEVB health insurance options for AFSCME and DDA employees effective October 1, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Item number 5S, County Council signed partition plat of property on Lower 4 Mile Lane. Counselor?
Yeah, so this predates my time here, but the county recently applied for and received approval for partition of property located on Lower 4 Mile Lane. The partition of the property divides it into 3 separate parcels. And the final partition plat has been submitted to the county. It requires a signature from someone on behalf of the county, and it was drafted for county council to sign. So I'm asking for authority to sign on behalf of the county accepting this partition.
Okay.
Move to accept final partition plat for Coos County property identified 29 South, 15 West, 35C, tax lot 1300, and authorize county council to sign.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. I think this was, did we receive this for non-payment, take it back for non-payment of taxes?
I don't remember.
I seem to recall
It's been in
that.
the works, well, it's been in the works for
forever.
years and years and years and years. We hadn't sold it, so we decided to split it up.
I believe it's a 40-acre parcel on Lower 4 Mile Road, south of Bandon.
Yeah, just short of 40 acres.
It's,
37.
okay.
Yeah.
Nice location, close to New River, as I recall, and this allows us to, we partitioned it into 3 lots, and thinking we would get more revenue out of it selling 3 lots rather than one 40-acre parcel.
I believe there was some cleanup on one of those too. We dealt with this last year sometime. Don't
I'm not
recall the
aware.
details.
I don't remember that.
I don't either.
No. Okay.
But it does front on, all three parcels front on the county road.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5T, approval of 2024 to 2027 collective bargaining agreement with Coos County Prosecuting Attorneys Association. Counselor.
Yeah, the current CBA with the DDAs expires on June 30th, 2024. We have successfully negotiated a successor agreement with the DDAs to run for 3 years through 2027. And we're requesting the board approve and sign that agreement.
Move to approve and sign collective bargaining agreement between Coos County and Coos County Prosecuting Attorneys Association.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
Nope.
No, sir.
Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5U. This is my agenda item. Board of Commissioners Salary Reduction Directive. The county faces significant shortfalls in fiscal year 24-25, which will not be addressed through a public safety levy since it failed. General fund departments face possible reductions. The commissioners should provide moral leadership through salary reductions. BOC salaries are determined by the compensation committee, not according to popular urban myth that we vote our own salary increases. That's an absolute lie. Anyway, so the BOC must request that the compensation committee execute a salary reduction for the board, and I am requesting that we approve and sign a letter from the BOC to the compensation committee requesting a 25% salary reduction for all commissioners effective for fiscal year 24-25, and I so move.
Okay, Mr. Chair, lacking a second. I think that the 25% would only be symbolic, so I would move that we do a 60% reduction, which would actually be $135,000 roughly, and that would cover one entire deputy.
Nice counter move.
Well, I've thought about this for a while, and I go, well, this really doesn't mean much. I mean, 15,000 apiece, yes, doesn't mean a whole lot when you're talking about shortage in millions, but if we each throw in $45,000 of our salary through a reduction, that's about $135,000. That will cover one of the new deputies.
All right. Very good. Well, so that's your motion.
Yes, sir.
To be clear, was your motion to do that or to refer this to the compensation committee?
It will go as stated in this item 5U. It'll go to the comp committee.
So essentially, the motion is to vote on this agenda item 5U, but change the number from 25% to 60%.
Correct. Well, negative. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room?
I just want to, I applaud you guys. This is impressive.
I would like to discuss it. I am not for this. I will vote against it, as I would vote against a salary reduction for any of our county employees. We should not be trying to balance our budget on the backs of our employees, whether they be elected officials, department heads, or staff. We have a responsibility to maintain a skilled workforce, and I think this is a step in the wrong direction. If we had an extravagantly high county tax rate, I would feel differently about this, perhaps. But we do not. Our citizens pay a county tax rate that is barely, well, it's about 2/3 lower, or will be next year, than the state average. So I think this is a step in the wrong direction. We aren't going to get good, qualified leadership or employees if we resort to this type of activity.
Okay, and my view on that is that the county's permanent rate of $1.08 per thousand of assessed value has no bearing on the BOC salary. I don't see the correlation there. I don't see the segue, but I think also that there's a qualitative difference between the Board of Commissioners discussing salary reductions for department heads or staff and the board discussing a reduction of our own salary. We are the CEOs of the county. We are the leadership of the county. And I think it's incumbent on us in a time when we're witnessing the fiscal trials that we are, not of our own creation, contrary to some other popular urban myths, but I think that it is incumbent on us to provide the moral leadership to execute on this kind of a cost reduction measure for the benefit of other county employees and the people of the county in general. So that's my response. Any other comments
Yes.
on the board?
I would further point out that I believe that Coos County's commissioner compensation is perhaps the very lowest in the entire state. And you're asking us, you're promoting reducing our compensation by roughly $45,000 per year, each person. It just doesn't make sense.
Nothing else at this time?
Well, I don't do this job for the salary anyway. I don't need the salary at all. It's only about 20% of my total household income. So I do it because I want to make a difference for the county. And if I can help out so that we save one of the newer deputies in total, cool. Because the 20 or 25% that we voted, the 20% twice that we voted down wouldn't make any difference at all in keeping a deputy. But I thought about this long and hard and said, well, okay, what would it take to retain one of the newer deputies? They're roughly 120-something thousand, I think, with Benny's. So, okay, 60 is a nice round number. Go with that.
Okay, Caroline, did you want to weigh in on this? You look like you do.
So I will say it's a great gesture, and I appreciate you wanting to do that. I will agree with John, though, that in the past we have looked at commissioner salaries, and there's no question that Coos County's elected officials, Board of Commissioners in particular, are paid a lot less than in other counties. I am concerned about how this will affect open positions in the future, and whether candidates will even put their name in the hat to run for county commissioner. I know that all three of you work long hours. Even though you're an elected official, you still put in a lot of hours, whether that be just doing county business or sitting on other boards or commissions that you that you are part of. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I asked that if you do vote on it to do this reduction, that it just be for the Board of Commissioners only, not our other elected officials.
That's what it's about.
And then you make it a temporary measure to some degree until we can work on some other fiscal
At first,
options.
before it actually gets approved, it has to go to the compensation committee, which is the 3 lay people on the budget committee, and then it has to come back.
Right, and I would give the same spiel when I sit in front of the compensation committee as well, so just something to consider, but
So I figured out the balance. We'll be making less than we do at McDonald's.
Well,
Just as a joke.
And I'll comment that, you know, the job is extremely demanding, and even if we're not in the office or in another meeting, we're still thinking about it all the time. We're always, this job is with you 24/7, 365. And especially in a season like this where we're facing this budget shortfall. So it's, I don't believe that the $74,000 salary is unreasonable at all. I think that it's, it's fairly low for the responsibilities of the position. And I don't know that we need to establish this as a permanent situation. I think I would be open to the possibility of looking at restoring the original salary rate once we have our fiscal solution in order. If we are able to operate this county at least current service levels, with the prospect of a balanced budget going forward, vis-a-vis proposals that I've already put forward and been talking about instituting what I've called the tax swap, then, you know, maybe we restore revenues to such a degree that we can rescind this. But for the time being, I do still believe that it's that there's a moral imperative to do it, even though, to be honest, this 60%, that's going to definitely have an impact on my family, because, well, it is a significant one. But I think it's the right moral position. And so, with that, I will open to other comments, please. Thank you, Caroline. Chris had his hand up first.
Chris Castleman from Coos County. I appreciate the gesture. I'm concerned that 2 people can change the salary of a third who is vehemently opposed to it. I'd be on your side. I don't agree with John, but I find it strange that we don't know how that will affect his income and his family, and that's a big difference for John. I will, however, point out that, John, you donated, the last time I checked, almost $10,000 to the political campaign to pass the levy. So you've got almost 10 grand to put towards signs and radio ads to make a levy pass. Then how can you not donate that money to the sheriff's office to fund a jail deputy? Also, John, if you're opposed to personnel cuts, I really don't want to hear any suggestion from you that you're going to be cutting anyone in the county's salary or laying anyone off. So I hope you've got a plan to fix the budget deficit without cutting any personnel costs in the county.
No, that's not possible. But I will not propose cutting anyone's salary.
Or laying anyone off.
I'm not. You don't put words in my mouth, Chris.
I'm not.
Quit trying
saying,
to. Yes,
okay.
you did.
Well, that would be
I'll stop
fantastic
that.
if you could do that without laying anyone off. Also, as a suggestion, instead of the compensation committee lowering their salary by 60%, because they might not even take your recommendation, they might choose not to. Could you donate it? I mean, if, like you said, you don't even need your whole salary at all, you have the option to donate it. I know that would kind of be a little bit of a waste, because you'd pay taxes on that money, and you'd only be able to donate the rest of it. So I don't know if there's a mechanism, if HR can talk to it, is there a mechanism to separate out these positions, salaries? And the recommendation would be for your specific commissioner position to reduce that salary by 60%, which would leave John on his own. Can they be separated out? Would that be part of the recommendation? That way your salary is being reduced, but John's isn't. I don't know. That's a possibility. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, I'm not sure what the order was. I think Richard was next. We'll get to y'all.
Okay, whether I agree with, I'm Richard Kozmitsky from Coos County. And I don't always agree with the decisions you guys make. But I know that all of you are working real hard and that you are carrying this with you everywhere you go. It's a very important work that you're doing. And just reducing, your salaries isn't going to solve our problem. And it's definitely a nice gesture. But I want you guys to be fairly compensated for the amount of work and effort and stress and everything that you're putting in to the work you do. And, reducing your salary isn't gonna solve our problem, okay? And I want, all the workers in the county to be fairly compensated. And you guys, like I said, whether I agree with you or not, should be fairly compensated for the stress and the time and the disruptions in your life that your job entails. Hang on to your money.
Thank you, Richard.
I don't particularly like to get reduce my salary either.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. David, did you have your hand up?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Jennings. I live here in Coquille. I appreciate that two of the commissioners are willing to make such a sacrifice for the benefit of the county. One of the problems I think that we have in society is when we have fiscal crises or other crises, it often distorts things and makes for really bad long-term policy because people forget some of the long-term implications of what they do in an effort to try to do anything to try to alleviate the problems at hand. To make that really specific, there's been different times when people have discussed commissioner salaries, mainly in relationship to the idea of hiring a county administrator and then lowering or pretty much eliminating the money for the board. I've always felt, and I think that's been reflected when this issue's been voted on, that people want a full-time board of commissioners that works hard to try to solve the county's problems. And for that reason, I think you need to evaluate this in terms of what is the appropriate action that the county needs to prosper or at least to get by in the long term, not what specifically looks good right now. And I think that requires basically maintaining a full-time board of commissioners and expecting them to work damn hard, because I know all the commissioners that I'm aware of in all the years I've been associated with the county have worked hard, and I know you three work hard. In the early days of the Republic, there were extensive discussions, both before, during, and right after the Constitutional Convention that established our country, about compensation for local officials. And eventually, most places in America realized that unlike Britain, where you had to be privately wealthy to participate in government, that it was important to give people enough money to basically make it a job. I think what people need is a full-time board that works full-time. I'm afraid that it would be very difficult once you start cutting your salary to add back to it, because you know what an issue would be at a candidate forum if some guy said, well, I'm in favor of increasing the board's salary by 40% and making it a full-time job. It's going to be very difficult to do. But if you don't do that, one, you may not attract people that otherwise would be very good at the job.
The second thing I'm afraid of is you may attract people that would treat it like a part-time job. They think, well, it's a part-time salary, and, I'm gonna take some other employment. And I don't think we need to do that. I think we need full-time commissioners. That's the model we ought to have, and as tempting as it is to cut the salary, because it is a very noble gesture. You need to think clearly in terms of what should the compensation be. And by and large, at least as far as I know, the HR director would certainly know better than I would, the compensation is not at all out of line with other counties, especially if you look at the responsibilities commissioners have here. Most counties don't have a county forest, and there are other functions that make it more difficult to be a board here. So I think we need to think in terms of the long term and not be tempted to take some symbolic gesture that might at most provide enough money for one deputy. So I would urge you to basically not take this step, mandate to the county, and set the standard that this is a difficult job. We want to attract people that work hard, and we want our county commissioners to be full-time workers. So, whatever you do, my urge would be to think of the long term and reject the proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. We had Pam was next. Actually, Megan, we'll get to you, and you also, Dan.
Takes me more steps to get here because my legs are short. Pam Lewis. I'm a county resident, but I live in Coquille. Happy to distinguish that. My thoughts on this, are you talking about, you are specifically saying short-term resolution, look at it next year if you decide to do this. And I would say if you did decide to do this, please take it and designate it for an officer wanting to do the right thing. That was what I heard your goal was. I don't see that you guys are saying this is forever. Shouldn't be.
A year.
A year. Look at it next fiscal year and go, okay, we've done that. Now we need to look at compensation for good leadership. I'm hearing those words, absolutely. But I would say, if I can communicate it well, really good leaders eat last. They stand up and say, my people first. I will wait until they're taken care of, and then it will take care of me. That's the principle that I'm hearing here. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I would sit and say yes if I was on the other side of your desk to that, because really good leaders eat last. Thank you for being good leaders.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, can I get Megan first, and then Dan will get you next?
So I just wanted to clarify one thing. Compensation Committee recommends a salary. They do not make the final decision. You do. For ORS 204.116 and 204.112. Says they recommend, they do not make the final decision.
However, it's always been that the board, accept their recommendation.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I know what the ORS says, but we've always gone with what Compensation Committee has recommended.
All right, so based on that ORS, then perhaps the structure of the agenda item is not correct. Perhaps we simply need to direct that it be so, and it will be so, and it doesn't need to go through the Compensation Committee. So if that's true, then we'll amend the motion. But for the sake of discussion continuing unabated, Dan, did you want to?
Yes, Daniel Wilson from Coos County, aka Pastor Daniel Wilson from Bandon, aka Southern Southern Oregon Public Safety Chaplain, AKA Daniel Wilson Construction. Anyway, that's who I am. I just wanted to commend you guys for such a beautiful act of putting your money where your mouth is and caring for your community, for your county. And I thought it might be good to just make a suggestion. I don't know if it's possible to add to this. Is there some way to put some sort of sponsor an officer, or along with this compensation, or to pull in some more of your county people that maybe might help sponsor with a donation to go towards, like you said, it might go towards an officer, or for someone, hey, we could help sponsor by giving this, maybe even, make a mark in history through something like this, a movement like this, to where the community gets behind you and we get behind each other. There's been problems on and on through different counties, through our nation, and there's always solutions. And as the Word of God says, there's wisdom in the counsel of many. And I believe through all this and through acts like this is where wisdom will come forth with different ideas to help. And then maybe in that process, say the money comes forth to pay for that officer or more, it could be given your salary back, maybe quicker or immediately. Anyway, that's just a suggestion or a thought.
So, Pastor, you may not know, and a lot of people here already do know this, but Bandon Dunes voluntarily contributes to law enforcement for the county. If, correct me, Megan, I think it's about 1 point, where'd she go? I can't.
She moved up here.
Oh, there you are. You were hiding.
I'm
One,
so tall, I'm blocking her.
you both aren't great. How much does Bandon Dunes voluntarily contribute to the current budget, which is in shortfall? About $1
million.
Little over $1 million.
Yeah.
Somewhere, but I think it's closer to $1.5 million. They do that. They voluntarily have a room tax on all their patrons, and they contribute that tax to the county for county law enforcement. But there's a caveat on there. If the law enforcement falls below a certain amount, which we're not in danger of, then it would go away. But they voluntarily do that. So if you ever run into people from Bandon Dunes, thank them.
Absolutely. They do give above and beyond even that. I have several family members that work out there. And so, yes, hats off to them. But I think it's a great idea, too, to continue something like this and let it be known to our community and our county that there is opportunity for all of us to give in some form or fashion. So anyway, I just wanted to make that suggestion to see if that might, go along with what you guys are offering.
So another reason for this proposal we haven't voted on yet is there was a lot of misinformation out there in the community before the levy was voted on, that there was all kinds of money, you just take it from different departments, willy-nilly all over the place and put it into law enforcement, specifically the jail. There isn't that money. As a person who ran against our treasurer, Megan, at one time said there's lots of hidden money in the county. There isn't hidden money anywhere, and most of it cannot be, of our $150 million budget, 25 is only general fund, and a lot of that is grants. We get a little over $6 million in property tax, and the jail is $7.8 million by itself. There isn't money that we can go grab from all over the place and do this. Yes, a little bit one time, and then we have an additional cutback the following year. I've heard a little thing, well, you got $11 million in forestry fund. Yes, we do. That's on a 5-year rolling average. Because in years past, we would sell no timber. If that happened now and we were still on year to year, we'd be laying off more because we have about $2.5 million going into the current budget now. We still have the deficit, so we'd have to lay off another, how many ever people that is, for another $2.5 million. So that's why back in about 2000, 2002, somewhere in there, the county adopted this 5-year rolling average, so we didn't have these big highs and big lows where they laid off people and hired them back and laid them off, hired them back. Just a few little thoughts about why people are out there talking about, well, you can fund it for this time, but what happens next year?
Exactly.
If something isn't found, and I don't think we're going to find ONC receipts, we're not going to find state timber funds. The county forest has been cut back through the private forest accord and the HCP. We probably lost, estimate is 15 to 20% of our total county forest land base, which goes into the average acre harvest per year. 20%? They just cut us this past year. So so what we did is we cut all that, before they could restrict it, but in future years we're going to have less and less and less out of the county forest. And we lost our, we didn't get heard by the Supreme Court of the United States on adhering to the 1937 ONC Act, which is that timber of 2+ million acres in the Western Oregon forest was for the sole use of the counties, nobody else. They didn't hear our case. So what we get is about 5% of what we used to.
So, Pastor Dan, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. The volunteer donation concept is something that I've discussed. I've discussed with other people and thought we were going to get something launched, and frankly, the response has been not very encouraging. And there have been other priorities that have come to the fore with this pressure of the budget, and realizing that an ongoing volunteer program is probably not a highly viable approach to do anything more than a short-term infill. But I'd love somebody to prove me wrong on that. But with that said, is there any other discussion in the room on this agenda item?
I have some new information to share. So under ORS Chapter 204.126, it regards change in compensation of elective officers. States that the compensation of any elective county officer shall remain in effect unless changed with the approval of the county budget committee or tax supervising and conservation commission. I don't believe we have one of those. We do have a county budget committee. So I believe if we've already decided on what the compensation for elective officers should be in the proposed and approved budget, that to change compensation now would require this approval from the county budget committee. So it might mean changing the letter from being a letter to the compensation committee to the county budget committee.
Okay.
And it says further, before any change in compensation is effective, it must be submitted to and approved by the county budget committee at a regular meeting or special meeting called for that purpose.
Okay.
So there would also need to be a meeting.
Be a special meeting then. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so I'll modify my motion to reflect that.
Okay. Now that you've already modified your motion, Commissioner Maine, I would propose, based on all the comments that we've heard today, I would propose that we frame this requested action to approve and sign a letter from the BOC to the Budget Committee requesting a 60% salary reduction for all commissioners effective for FY 24-25, with a 1-year sunset from date of implementation. So in other words, it would by default go back to normal compensation after 1 year, or at least, and then if we have a continuing need to keep this implemented, then we could vote on it at that time and extend it.
Right.
Okay? So, well, we have more comment now.
I just.
It's okay.
I just want to, Susan Kirkendall from Coos Bay, just want to make sure that also designates that what you're proposing goes directly to helping the sheriff's department maintain a position. It just so that it so that everybody feels it's not just going into a general fund, but there is a specific reason why you have done what you've done.
Right.
So that it goes to procuring for us a safety.
And how I arrived at a number, I asked the sheriff, well, what's the cost for a new deputy that's come on? He said about 125 plus or minus, so I made it about 135.
Which in my mind and maybe others would that makes it it's kind of a the epiphany moment where you go I understand.
He didn't know why I was asking, however.
It's not just because I can hear people out there saying, he's just doing that so he can get reelected.
Yeah.
If that's clarified that this is a proposal from the board for a very specific moment in time, it isn't to cure the big problem because it obviously doesn't, but it does allow us as a county to maintain one more precious officer that is going to be there for us.
And I don't see anything on the horizon that's coming up that's going to make county finances better. It's only getting worse by the federal government and state government.
I agree with you, but you know how the mindset is.
Yeah.
That if you give it a specific time, it doesn't allow for the conversation, well, they're just doing this for that or that. But it was specific from you to offer an ability for them to maintain that officer.
It'd be always interesting if those folks were sitting in this position.
I agree, and I'm not going to trade with you.
All right. Thank you for that. So,
Roger is a comment on the line.
Oh, very good. Let's go ahead and hear that. I'm not seeing it.
DJ.
All right. DG? Is DG live up, ready to go?
Yeah, this is David Giels with Coos Bay. Can y'all hear me okay?
DG online, go ahead.
This is David Giels. Can you hear me?
DG. Woo.
He was talking, but.
Sorry, DG. You can go again, please.
Yeah, this is David Giels with Coos County. Can you guys hear me okay?
See indications that you're speaking, but we're not hearing it through the system. Bear with us, please. DG, we appear to be having some technical difficulties hearing you. If it's possible for you to type your question or comment into the comments bar, we will read those. And let's keep an eye for those and come back to them and be sure we read them after DG's had time to enter that, if so desired. Thumbs up. Okay, so DG's working on that. Is there any other comment in the room? What's that?
Julie Brecky would like to comment.
Julie Brecky would like to comment. Julie?
Hi, this is Julie. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All right, so it seems to be a universal audio problem that we're having with the online participants. So,
can you hear me?
It worked last time, so I don't know what's happened.
Let me try one.
So,
Have somebody try it again. I just found some. That might
you all
Can you
hear
hear
me?
me? Hear me? Hear me? Hear me?
Now, I
Okay. Yeah, Julie was showing some mic action there. Does DG have their comment up in the chat?
The online people can hear one another, but
The online people can hear one another.
I don't see anything that would stop it.
Okay, so I don't see anything from DG entered into the chat. Julie, in the meantime, if you can congeal your comments into the chat, that would expedite this.
Or run over from the courthouse.
So, okay, so DG, I am concerned that reducing salary will prevent many people from being able to run for office. Yeah, that was a comment tendered here from the podium as well. And I think that concern is a little bit ameliorated, substantially ameliorated by the 1-year sunset on this concept. So it actually would not. Also concerned that this shields citizens from the true impact of the budget deficit. Well, that may be true to a very modest degree, but I believe that the moral imperative outweighs that concern substantially. So, any other comments in the room while we wait for Julie's comments to come up on the chat? So, our amended motion then, as I understand it, Commissioner Main, is to approve and sign the letter from the Board of Commissioners to the Budget Committee requesting a 60% reduction in salary for all commissioners effective for fiscal year 24-25 with a 1-year sunset from the date of implementation, and those funds to benefit the Sheriff's Office only. Do I have that motion correct?
Well, I would just start July 1 of 24 through June 30 of 25.
Okay, so noted and so moved. And I will second that motion.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion in the room? I see Julie's comments. I agree with David and DG. Why can't you donate the portion of your salary instead of making a reduction of salary? Well, frankly, that puts us at a tax disadvantage on top of abdicating the salary, and you know, I don't see the functional difference really. So with that, one more call for comments in the room. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to consent calendar.
Second.
Any discussion on the consent calendar?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Late agenda items, we have 7A. We've already handled a couple of these earlier. 7A for the Assessor's Department, request approval of Hexagon Maintenance Agreement renewal. Hello again, Mr. Jansen.
This, Steve Jensen, assessor. This is the maintenance agreement for GeoMedia software used in the assessor's office. The program is essential for the cartographers to use for mapping in their job. Cost is $10,058.88 for the fiscal year 24-25 and is included in our 2024-25 budget.
Okay.
I move we approve renewal of the Intergraph maintenance agreement for the fiscal year 2024-25 and authorize our chair to sign.
Is there?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7C, thank you, Steve. Pardon me, this is, it says Planning Department, but I thought they called themselves Community Development. But anyway, Jill isn't here today. Hello, Amy, good morning. This is regards 7C, waiver of a fee for validation of a unit of land.
Just for clarification, we do call ourselves community development, but this is for the planning portion, the
Ah.
permit within.
Gotcha, thank you.
So earlier this year, Ms. Cook requested some information about selling her family's property. The research showed that the parcel of land was not lawfully created. As soon as she found out, we started working on a process to bring the property into compliance. The solution to this issue is an after-the-fact property line adjustment to validate a unit of land. This will resolve the violation, but the ordinance states that there is a triple fee. Given the property owner's willingness, Jill is requesting a waiver of the after-the-fact portion of the fee, allowing her to submit the fee that will cover the cost of processing her application. If code enforcement had been involved, the additional fee would be justified, but having a willing landowner has saved time and resources. So we are requesting to waive the after-the-fact fee for Mrs. Cook.
Very good. I'd like to just weigh right in here right now and say that this right here is an example of the culture of yes that we've been advocating for in community development, both in the planning and the permit side. And this was a case that I was somewhat familiar with, and I cannot be more pleased to see the way that this has progressed through your processes, and I'm very pleased to see the proposal for a fee waiver for the Cooks as well. It's an unfortunate situation, not of their creation, and the county has stepped up to help resolve it, and that is thrilling to my heart. Do I have any discussion, or actually, could we get a motion?
I move we waive the after-the-fact fee for validation of a unit of land owned by Mrs. Cook based on the actual, hold it now. Are you reducing it, or are you waiving the total fee?
We're waiving the after-the-fact, which is.
Okay, so you would reduce it to a normal
Yeah, she
fee.
would only be paying for what you would originally pay, instead of the triple, which is what's in our ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what we're doing is waiving the after-the-fact fee and instead using the regular fee.
So it's a single, not a triple.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bad in baseball, good in planning. Yeah. Do I have a second?
I'll have to make a motion, Bobby.
Well, I'm still waiting for, you want to make a more formal motion here? How about
Bobby's
commissioners
got it.
waive the after-fact fee for the applicant based on the actual cost of processing the app?
Okay.
Pretty much what I wrote.
I think the motion was legitimate, the second is legitimate, so deemed by the chair. Any further discussion on the board?
Nope.
Second.
Second,
Any
yeah.
discussion in the room? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Amy. Oh, you're still up.
You're welcome.
7D, not 70, but 7D, renewal of Esri contract for ArcGIS software.
ArcGIS mapping software requires an annual renewal of the contract. This software is necessary for mapping functions in the planning department. The planning department's portion of this quote is $1,750. This is a request for the Board of Commissioner Chair to sign the renewal of the annual Esri contract. This renewal cost was included in our fiscal year 24-25 budget, and this was an increase of $100 from last year.
Okay, so motion.
Move to approve the annual renewal of Esri contract to cover 24-25.
Second?
Any discussion on the board? Any discussion in the room? Ah, how did I know? Susan might have a comment on this one. Our audience Esri expert.
Yeah, not quite. Susan Kirkendall from Coos Bay. I just want to say thank you for doing that, because Esri does far more than just the planning. Esri is gonna help the roads department. They
Yep.
can do the hyperlink to the database when all of those, old documents are in that database, and they can find out what the right-of-ways are. This program is gonna help. It can, even if you have a database that tracks crime, even the sheriff's department could use that to isolate areas that are crime-ridden. I know they probably already know that, but it is a program that once you put things into the database, all you have to do is hyperlink to it. It's an amazing asset for the county. I think that it's well worth it, so I thank you for.
We've been using Esri for the last 20-plus years at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
That's what I did before I came here, and it was for the roads department, the highway department that I worked in, and the benefits of knowing what the right-of-way is based on documents that can be over 100 years old. I mean, you're talking about going back to Bureau's reports that are from 18 whatever, the inception of the county, and it lays a foundation that gives the legal parameters room to make a good argument.
Yeah.
I just want to give a rah-rah.
Okay, rah. Thank you. Any other comments in the room? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Forgive me, I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess. Too much coffee this morning. We'll be back for these other agenda items, the balance of the meeting at 11:18.
And note we have a future commissioner in training over there.
Yeah, learning everything early.
I'm not the ambulance. We're here just for fun. I would have to pick up more shifts on the ambulance, but these jobs are stressful. I think you could do the best in.
I just gotta quit doing things like getting a fair. Before you got last week. Supporting my children. I'm angry. I'm angry that they are. I'll tell you this. I didn't put $10,000 I did put $6,500 and a lot of time putting outside.
Go to meetings, running with a computer in there, and that means
Even hanging around on the board, sad, really sacrifice. And at the end, we needed a little bit more money to push over the top. I asked Paul for $1,000. He gave me that money. He said, I can't do it. But then probably ended up my wage $45,000.
Seems like a gatekeeper.
You can afford to not have a salary. You must be doing pretty well. Yeah, I mean, from the family business.
He didn't help but 5 kids.
Turns it into a rich man's game.
Yeah, no, it's, no, it absolutely is not. way of solving the problem.
In a year from now, if we don't, and I don't see anything,
Hey Bobby, it's Julie. Can you hear me? Julie, can you hear me?
still gonna have to lay off that guy that we just said we don't have to.
12 months might as well be 12 minutes in this game.
Yeah.
It takes forever to get anything done through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the room can hear us. Testing, testing.
Anybody in this room, are they willing to do what you guys do?
Problem with it is we get feedback, we really bring that effort online, but everything looks.
I think it's only us at 9 hearing you.
Good day.
It's not going to that part.
We could get together and have a coffee club.
I'm noted.
Not today, no, not today.
No, I'm gonna be, I am absolutely fucking buried this week.
Well, I can do it this week.
Vacation next week.
Maybe the next week, the week after or something.
Yeah, okay.
The other, you know, I can't do it.
John, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Things that I don't, that you said the other day about, yesterday about. We can't get
That's progressive. Okay, we're just about there.
Now you go around.
It is 11:18. Thanks, Chip.
Alrighty. Boy, it's a long one. What time is it?
Yeah, well, that was 5 minutes.
It's 17 after 11. We still got a big one to go
Like
to.
planning here. Okay. So let's resume this, and Commissioner Sweet can rejoin when he rejoins. Resuming back up on late agenda item number 7E, Order 2406-023L, rescinding authority of the roadmaster to utilize the hearings officer process to enforce Article 4 of the Coos County Code. Counselor.
Yeah, thank you. Order 2406-023L would rescind a 2023 board order that authorized the roadmaster to enforce Article 4 of the Coos County Code using the county's hearings officer. That order, 2302-016L, was made pursuant to Article 11, Division 7 of the code. That's our hearings officer process. Last week, on June 12th, the board directed staff to prepare an order rescinding that previous order.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, move to adopt Order 2406-023L.
Right. And I will second that motion and open for discussion on the board. Commissioner Sweet, this is the order rescinding the roadmaster authority, or the hearings officer process rescinded from the use of the roadmaster.
I know what it's for.
Yeah, okay. Any discussion on the board?
Yeah, we have rules, we have an easy way of enforcing, an efficient way of enforcing, a cost-effective way of enforcing county codes that don't rise to the level of requiring prosecution from our DA staff, who can barely keep up with major crimes, and of our court time. This is not a good move.
Okay.
However, it is necessary when you stir up 160 farmers that actually came to the meeting we had at Oaks Pavilion, and then about 150 the next time. This is not a good move on the part of the county, and we're rescinding that portion.
Concur. It was a mistake that we made in 2023. While the need for some of these processes is a real extant need, this was not the right approach to it.
And upcoming, County Road Department is going to hire a deputy for a lot of issues concerning county roads.
Which is a much better solution.
Yeah, and they'll go through the state courts.
So, any discussion in the room on this agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye. Nay.
And the motion carries. Late agenda item 7F, lawsuit against the U.S. Forest Service, Chair Commissioner Maine.
So about, let me think now, about 3 weeks ago, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service declared the coastal pine marten endangered. That's the highest level. They were threatened. I thought at the time, yeah, and so I called the Forest Service, I called BLM, okay, it's not gonna affect the dunes, it'll be okay. And then last Thursday, we got this filing by the Center for Biological Diversity that's now filed in federal court, basically to limit activities in the dunes in favor of the coastal marten because it's endangered. What is next? Who knows? But if they go to court and win this one, is that the next step to shut down the total dunes, which wipes out all of our businesses that we have, all of our tourist dollars that we have? It's kind of like, what's next? I mean, they shut down the federal forest, they shut down the state forest, they shut down the fishing, they want to disrupt the fishing with the windmills, and now this. I mean, we don't have a whole lot left. And so, fortunately, a gentleman who owns spin reel ATVs, Rich, contacted me and he said, "Did you know what just happened?" And I go, "What?" "Here's a copy of it." And I read through it and I went, "Oh, CRAP. Oh my gosh." And I said, well, he said, "I already got folks all noticed." I said, "Okay, well, I won't have to then." It is very discouraging. Kind of like when the Supreme Court didn't hear our case on the ONC forest. It was just devastating for our local economy. So, Rich, would you like to say anything about this? I know you have some other folks, or did have. They may have gone back to work. This is Rich Burkholder, owner of Spin Reel ATVs. Former deputy sheriff in Colorado, by the way.
Years ago. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Board of Commissioners and folks here in the meeting. This is something that has come to our attention as business owners in Coos County. My name is Richard Burkholder. I'm a citizen of Coos County. I'm here with my wife, Tanya Burkholder. We're co-owners of Spin Rail Dune Buggy near Lakeside. There was a gentleman by the name of Todd Gergen that owns Boxcar Campground. Also, Tom Zomershoe and Marcus Poley were here, owners of North Bend Power Sports. They had to leave for other business related issues. Also spoke to Al Pettit, who owns Can-Am in Coos Bay. He's also a citizen of Coos County. We've been in touch with Steve Dayton, owner of the KOA in Hauser, and also Steve's ATV. He also resides and has residency here in Coos County. We've been in touch with operations people in Douglas County commissioners, also Lane County, because the critical management map that was issued by Fish and Game basically outlines just the Oregon dunes. The Humboldt pine marten, the elusive little critter, not to be mistaken with the spotted owl, is basically in the Northern California, Oregon area along the Pacific coast. According to the filing that they made in the court, they say there's 440 of them left in the world, and 71 of them live in the dunes. 20 years, I've never seen one. There's been some people that have mentioned they've seen them. They're not in riding areas that are accessible by people. There are closure areas in the dunes. And the Center for Biological Diversity was a mainstay in trying to close the Oceana Dunes, California's areas, their recreation areas. This organization is made up of 160 employees, 40 of which are attorneys. Last year, they obtained $20 million in taxpayers' funds via grants from the federal government to sue the federal government. Now, I understand there are areas where we do need to protect nature, we need to conserve. We work with that. We work with the Forest Service on that. But this is also been blindsided. No one here in this area knew about it. They've been doing the studies down in California, and the vote was done in California. There was public notice, however, nobody heard the public notice up here because it was all down there. This is basically a start because of the filing. If you read through it, they want to stop and get an injunction to stop UTV takeover, Dune Fest, the local large events that have a huge economic impact on the community. The dunes bring in over $15 million a year just in the 3 counties alone, and it affects 6 cities. If they proceed with shutting these down and getting the Forest Service to shut it off, what they're basically saying is the Forest Service has not managed the area the way they're supposed to, when in fact they have been. This has been in place for several years, the critical management, and I've spoke to several of the district rangers about it. It may change a few things that they do, but they have been very cautious of the pine marten being in the area and have been working with that. At this point, the injunction has asked the judge to stop the events this year and to rescind any large event permits, which could also endanger the tour companies because we also have permits with the U.S. Forest Service as co-operations. It mentions the sound, which has also been a big issue through the years in the dunes. For citizens, we understand that issue. I live on the dunes. I know what they're talking about with sound. But at the same time, they're using this as a motion to get in. Once they get this done, then they also addressed the riding, how it affects the pedestrians, how it affects the dunes, and so forth.
Yep.
And as I recall, the United States President's Office is the one that inducted us as the very first recreational area in the United States for the purpose of recreating. I've been here for 20 years now. I went to high school in North Bend. I moved back in the area. I have dealt, as Commissioner Maine said, with law enforcement. I've dealt with conservation areas in Colorado and wildlife issues. I worked very closely with wildlife officers in Colorado. And this is almost, as my opinion, a frivolous way of saying we're going to shut you down. And I guess what I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to do is, as a joint group, to be able to stand with our community, stand with the other 3 counties who are also looking into this with their legal aids, that if the time comes and we need you to contact whether state senators, whether the governor's office, or even federal offices in Washington, D.C., that you stand with us. As business owners, we're going to stand together. There are numerous business owners that will not tolerate this. We can work together on working the solution of this if there is a problem. But like I said, the U.S. Forest Service has been very diligent. And that's very unusual to hear from a business owner's standpoint where we go, let's go ride. Because the Forest Service has always had the reputation of let's go close. But they haven't. I talked to Jeremy, the ranger in Reedsport, who's in charge of the office, and he said, quote unquote, we will continue to recreate as deemed by the president's office.
So when I said 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife designated the Pacific martin, when I called the Forest Service and the BLM and Federal Representative Hoyle, none of them knew anything about it. They were blindsided when this happened by the
Most
U.S.
every
Fish and
government
Wildlife.
official that we talked to has been blindsided with
Yeah.
it. This came out of left field. It literally was a small report out of Portland that I had heard from that initially got our attention that the U.S. Fish and Game was making a ruling that would go into effect June 28th of this month. And with that being said, all of a sudden, no one knew, but this filing got put in, and I was contacted by an attorney in Eugene who said, hey, you might want to make people know about this. He sent me the copy, and it was definitely pointed towards blindsiding the citizens of Coos County, basically.
So a question comes to my mind, Mr. Burkholder, that based on a comment that you made, I'm wondering if the pine marten is being consumed by the barred owl, just like the spotted owl is.
Well,
there's
we joke about things like that, but I will
possibility
say, what was that?
there's a possibility the marten is preying on the plovers.
Yes. The snowy plovers, we have what we call the snowy plover ranches out there to keep our little critters safe. And what they have found is that those little snowy plovers have moved out into all areas of the dunes now because the predators have now found out their dinner plate is in one central location.
Right.
Also, keep in mind the studies have been done, but the studies are being questioned right now as to how they've determined where these pine martens are and what they are, because there is such things as pine martens and there's the Humboldt Pacific pine marten. If you look at a picture, they look almost identical. From what I understand from trappers I've talked to in the area, tests were done by students of OSU. I'm sure there's some more information we'll be getting, but the latest what I've been advised was that they could not trap the animals, so what they would do is put bait areas out and put a form of sticky substance tape around those baits to collect hair that got in the area. Common sense tells me that how can you determine how many are in the area actually? The U.S. Forest Service made a comment to me last week when they were in our store. We were talking about the pine marten, and I said, well, I haven't seen one. He said, oh, they're here. And I said, they are. And he says, yes. I said, where are they? Well, that's a secret. That's for us to know. And I said, oh, so you know where they're at, but you won't tell us so we can help maybe try to avoid them or help maybe take care of them. And no comment was made at that point. And I said, thank you very much.
So, you know, I appreciate very much the unity and standing together that you've expressed among the affected business owners. And, you know, I just would say at some point, we have to stand against these absolute ploys of the out of control state and federal legislature, the out of control agencies. These people are insane, and everything that we see coming down the pike is oriented toward a reduction of local control, a reduction of freedom of people to engage in free commerce, a reduction of people's access to their rights. and further encumbrances upon smaller local governments without any compensation. It's all oriented toward limiting our freedom, limiting our rights, and expanding the power of the federal government and the state government. And I'm sick of it, and we've got to stand up. So I, for one, would actually, if this closure actually comes through unabated, I would go out there on an ATV with you in defiance of it. Defiance. Because at some point we have to stand up and poke them in the eye and say, that's enough. You've crossed it again. We're not going to allow it to happen anymore.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
This is our county. This is our country. This is our freedom and our liberty. And they have used lie after ploy to limit our economic freedom, our personal freedom, our liberties in every way they can imagine, and even ones that we can't.
Right.
And it's time to stand up and say, no more.
Correct. And that's why I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to jointly gather together, make a motion that we will stand together and fight this if need be. At this point, it is trying to stop the injunction of the events. As far as what I've been told from Michelle, who is the district ranger out of Walport for the Siuslaw National Forest Service, at this point, the permit will continue for UTV takeover. It has to go through their legal counsel now and through the Department of Justice because of this filing. Everything appears to be as in order, that it's going to keep moving forward. He was told to go ahead and move forward. UTV takeover is a week away and the permit has not been issued. It is not because of the failure of them, it is just because of a legal loophole with now a speed bump, which they did their due diligence when they did the permit. They did a wildlife study. They did an environmental study. Steve McCarthy, who's in charge of that, has jumped through numerous hoops with the federal government to make sure that the event obliged by every aspect that they have asked for. And they have agreed that they have. It's just that this group has come out of left field to try to stop this, and they're focusing on the large events first to try and get to the smaller parts. And I don't say this as an owner of an off-road business. I don't have time during the summer to take up a fight against a bunch of people that don't even live here, that want to take care of a little me. I have to take care of my employees. We employ up to 23 employees at any given time. That's our community, that's their livelihood, and I am a very busy person during the summer. But I will tell you this, I will do what it takes to keep this going, because of the fact we've got to keep everybody jointly together, because it's going to crush the coast of Oregon if they do succeed in getting this started. If the permits get stopped, then they're not going to stop. They're going to continue.
That's right.
And we can't allow this to happen. Our communities are suffering. I've heard in the meeting today, we were talking about you as commissioners taking a pay cut. We worry about Biden economics. We worry about the taxes, where things are going. Ultimately, the responsibility and the financial responsibility comes down to the citizens of this community.
That's right.
And they need to make the right decision. And maybe we all jointly need to take an effort to take a little bit of that pay cut and make it happen to help the sheriff's office, to help our programs here if we want to keep them in place, folks. It's all connected. Whether it's the Pine Martin, whether it's our responsibility to pay our bills, we need to do something. It's not just your responsibility, it's all our responsibility. And as business owners, we stand behind you, and we ask that you stand behind us.
Well, you can count on me to stand behind you in any letter communications that you see as helpful to further the cause that you pursue here. can certainly count on me, and I'm certain that my fellows here would concur.
Of course.
Rich,
Yes, sir.
lots of moving parts to this.
Yes, sir.
I absolutely agree with the other two commissioners that we need to do everything we can to keep this from happening. The Forest Service often is an adversary, but in this instance, they would seem to be a friend.
That is correct.
So, and you work with them, how best can we help them if they are the ones that are being sued?
Well, I understand that Michelle has called for later this week a meeting with Douglas County Commission and Commissioner here to kind of go over what they are facing. Right now, the Forest Service has been very quiet. Understandably, it's a legal battle. That's their right to do so, to protect the interest of what they're trying to do. It's basically a wait and see what happens. It has been assigned to a federal judge in Eugene, although last I checked, it was not on the docket. They're waiting to see when a ruling would be made. I think the Forest Service is kind of stepping back saying, hey, we have not done anything wrong. We want to do what's right. And they know what's right for the community. Those people live here.
Yep.
And yes, they transfer in, and I hear it all the time. Oh, the Forest Service wants to shut us down. You're right, they do. But it's people that are not living in this area. It's people in Salem, it's people maybe back in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
But the people here have been very supportive. The people that work here actually like riding. You'll see them out here on the weekends.
Yeah.
They like to be out here, and they have a love for this community. They have a love for what they do out there. And sometimes it's unusual to hear a business owner that's in the off-road industry say, hey, we get along with the Forest Service, when everybody's saying, oh, the Forest Service wants to close things down. But we actually get ahead of ourselves. They're doing what we ask them to do, and they have rules they have to follow. Unfortunately, they have people that are governing them that make them do things we may not agree with locally. I think it's a matter of waiting to see what the Forest Service has to say to the commissioners Thursday. And proceed with that.
Very good.
Yeah, we have a phone call with Douglas County.
One more. This is one more example of something I articulated when I was running for this office. It was a line that I picked up from a friend of mine that our problems in Coos County don't originate in Coos County. They originate in Salem and in Washington, D.C. And Coos County should be one of the most prosperous counties in this state by accident, and we're not.
Correct.
But we're not, and that is by design.
Well, and this also will hurt the county tremendously because it will greatly affect Riley Ranch.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Basically
All right.
shut it down if it goes farther. But, here's a copy of the filing by the Centers for Biological Diversity. They're from Oceanside, New York. There's three of them. Circle Pines, Minnesota, and Portland, Oregon.
Anything with Soros on that?
What?
Anything with George Soros on that?
Wouldn't be surprised.
I would encourage people to read page 5.
Yeah.
You'll see where it's locally supported by a gentleman here.
Yep.
Who is pushing it, and he's been associated with other issues also.
Yeah, retired federal biologist.
And I have been in touch with, also, on a side note, Polaris Industries and Can-Am Industries. They have lobbyists, they have attorneys. We are a Polaris outfitter, so we're a part of Polaris. And quote unquote, really, do they want us to come in with a lawsuit against them? So they are supporting us also. They're supporting the community.
Very good.
I also, before Rich leaves, want to comment about Rich. Without being asked, but sometimes asked, he has always volunteered to help the sheriff's office in anything he could. Always. And you can
I see nodding heads
nods in the back
there.
with our captain
Yeah.
and sheriff. Always helped out.
Rich is, in fact, has facilitated the donation has said that the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area supports 3.5 deputy positions by itself, just in our off-road patrolling through, not from the general fund, but from OPRD. That we patrol lakeside riding area with, and potentially this could even affect our marine division, because lakeside is tied to the dunes, as is the lake. If you take one half of it away, it's affecting all of it.
Yep, and with the new ATV route from the dunes to Lakeside, there goes a lot of their economy.
Well, wait till the Pine Martin crosses Magical 101 and goes into Lakeside. Because the mention was that it was everything west of 101. Last I checked, they like to live in the trees. And the Forest Service inducted grass that caused the trees in the dunes, because back in 1960, you could drive all the way from the edge of the dunes all the way out to the beach and never see the
BLM.
land.
BLM planted with a gang planter, I personally watched them, at 10 Mile Creek Lagoon, watched them with a gang planter planting the European beach grass in the dunes to stabilize the dunes in the late 50s, early 60s. And now it's a problem.
And if the Pine Martins are out there, they created the habitat.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
God.
unintended consequences, I guess.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Burkholder. It's very
Thank you, gentlemen.
instructive to hear you.
We will support you.
Yeah, we support you. All right, I understand that we have a couple of late agenda items.
agenda
May I have a motion to hear those, please?
I would make a motion, I would move to hear one. I know what that one's about. It has to do with
Is it only one?
upgrade.
There's two.
One?
There's two? Okay.
Always says two.
Okay, I thought we had just one earlier.
There's one of me, but two open requests.
Oh, two requests, okay.
One for the HVAC and one for
One.
the electrical.
Oh, I see, two things for the same, two parts
During
to the
public
same.
comments.
Yes.
It's coming up next.
We're trying to, we had approved the idea of putting a air conditioning system in the, you name the building, Lisa will come forward.
We have a motion and a second to hear the
Not
late
yet.
item. Could we just have those
Late.
motions?
I
The late,
will tell you what it was about
Oh,
first,
okay.
that's all.
That's all right, I'm not as demanding as you are.
Well, I think if you're gonna hear something, you should know what it's about. And this will be to upgrade one of the buildings at the fair.
Okay.
It's funded, and we need to, if we're gonna get it in time for the fair, we need to get on it. And so we bring it before you today as a late agenda item. So I move we do that.
We moved to hear a late agenda item.
Yes.
Yes, I second that.
All in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Thank you,
Lisa, do you wanna
Lisa.
bring?
Let's see them.
You support it too?
You seconded.
I did.
There was I didn't hear him vote.
I voted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, my voice is really hoarse.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
And do you wanna present this, Lisa?
So
Yes,
this
most
is
certainly.
Clarno Building Heating and Cooling Project, HVAC installation.
Yes, good morning. My name's Lisa and I represent the Coos County Fairgrounds. Thank you very much for accepting my late agenda item as our board voted last night. We had a very competitive quote process happen for the installation of a new HVAC system in the upstairs of our Clarno building. The Clarno building has various different events throughout the year. One main event is the 4-H archery, both the younger children and the adult archery. So during the winter months, it's extremely cold in there, and it can get to the point where you can see your breath. And so we want to be able to support them by having an indoor space and not freeze. Likewise, in the summer months, especially during fair time when we have lots of our needlework in there, quilts, all that taking up the space, it makes the space almost intolerable because of how warm it is. And so by adding the HVAC system into the upstairs of the Clarno building, we feel that it will help with those renting it, using the space, and continuing having our facilities used.
Okay.
So the first one I have is for the request for you guys to award the contract subject to council approval for the HVAC portion of the Clarno upgrades. And then the second one is.
Let's just handle them one at a time, Lisa.
Okay, yes. So the first one is for the Clarino upgrades for the HVAC portion, subject to council approval for westbound heating and air conditioning in the amount of $26,000.
So I move we award the contract to council, subject to council's approval for the HVAC portion of the Carnival upgrades to westbound heating and air conditioning LLC in the amount of $26,000.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
We had 4 or 5 quotes, and this is the lowest of the bunch.
It is not the low.
Significant. Oh,
it
no,
is-
there's
so-
one lower. Sorry.
There is one lower, and so my recommendation to my board, and I discussed this with them last night, is that the forms that we have, that get submitted to us by the contractors, the lowest one did not really explain their experience with similar projects and their experience in general. And so I felt that this one, while it be $2,000 more, explained in detail his experience with working with similar projects and the length of time that he's been in business. There was also public comment last night as far as this particular company doing a great job and in doing all the work throughout the communities here in the county. So.
Okay.
Also, installation timeline, you scored them much higher on the timeline that it would.
Yes,
that
so
they were
installation
operating
timeline, he was, as soon as July 1 happens, he was available to get in there. He also spoke to the timeline in the sense of very concise dates or time periods that he would be able to get in there, where the other was a little vague within the first, it's a 2-week project turnaround time.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on the board?
Nope.
Any discussion in the room on this late agenda item? That's adequate, thank you. Thank you. All right. So seeing no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, the next late agenda item, the Clarno Building Heating Cooling Project electrical installation part of this project.
We should have a motion to hear this.
Oh, well, okay. I thought we had a motion to hear them both. That was what I specified.
So did I.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Okay, thank
covered
you
both of
again.
them.
So this one, I'll spare the background and description because it is the same as the previous. It's to fix the heating and cooling issue within our Clarno building. At this time, I would request the board to award the contract subject to council approval for the electrical portion of the Clarno upgrades to M4 Electric LLC in the amount of $4,330.00.
Boy, M4 has just been dicing it up on the contracts. He is really doing a good job on his bids. That's
Yes.
great.
And this one again was very competitive as well. He is the lowest. He did go into detail further as far as the project timeline and was very forthcoming with being able to work with whichever HVAC.
Okay. Very
Mr.
good.
Chair, move to award contract subject to council approval for electrical portion of Clarno upgrades to M4 Electric LLC in amount of $43.30.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the board?
Nope.
Any discussion in the room? Seeing none additional to that,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. And we have already moved through the consent calendar, so we'll go right on to commissioner reports to be followed by public comments.
In the interest of time, I will not report anything.
Okay?
Likewise.
All right, I will follow suit with that. Actually, I will comment on something. I held a town hall meeting in Coos Bay at Marshfield High School last evening. We had about, I think, 65 people in attendance. And we were discussing the county budget, the shortfall, and possible avenues forward. As I have mentioned previously from this dais, I am advocating for moving us toward a tax swap. I would like to see Coos County implement a 2% retail sales tax with groceries and pharmaceuticals excluded. That is, unprepared food products and pharmaceuticals excluded from that tax, based on gross retail sales dollar volume of $1.1 billion in 2017. Carrying that forward a little bit, my estimation is that with a 2% sales tax, Coos County could conceivably raise $20 to $25 million a year. We are in discussions pursuing discussions with Curry County and Douglas County to see if they are interested in simultaneously pursuing the same course. That would eliminate a certain amount of cross-border trade in order to avoid the sales tax. 2% is a pretty low rate. One really exciting aspect of a 2% retail sales tax in Coos County is that it would track inflation. So we wouldn't have to keep coming back to the well to try to buttress funding the general fund and keep the jail open at a minimum of 2 pods, still looking to move that to 3. We wouldn't have to cut any patrols. We could look to add patrols. So that's one aspect that tracks inflation. The second exciting aspect of it is that it would raise enough revenue that we would be able to seriously discount and possibly even levy at 0 the county's permanent tax rate of $1.08 per thousand of assessed value. Really, that tax only raises $6 million, a little more than $6 million a year. The sales tax would raise almost between 20 and 25 million a year. So if we collected nothing on that permanent rate, that would be $6 million the county would not receive, and property owners would not be paying in property tax. Now, those property owners would be paying retail sales tax on expenditures, consumables that they purchase. That is true, but that cost to property owners, I think, would be somewhat reduced. So the burden of supporting the county's general fund would be transferred, 30% of it transferred from the backs of property owners to tourists and transients through the county. So it's a much more effective means of revenue generation for a sustainable model for the county in this era of reducing revenues and increasing costs. These are two things that are not compatible. It creates an untenable situation for us. So that's what we're pushing. That's what I'm pushing for. And you're going to be hearing more about the tax swap. I think it's a great benefit to the county. We had very good feedback last night. Not everybody was 100% in favor. There were some enhancing comments that we heard, and I think that there are little tweaks and adjustments that we need to make to the proposed policy. But that's what that was about last night, and it was really great to see everybody turn out for that. That's my comments. So, without further ado, we'll move to some public comments. Phil Thompson's first on the list. Looks like Phil has departed. Did he leave?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Bye, Phil. Mr. Burkholder already spoke. Did you have anything additional, Mr. Burkholder?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Castleman is next on the list.
Chris Castleman from Coos County. Just wanted to talk before the budget meeting later. When we met, or when you met 2 weeks ago for that meeting, you took the budget that you approved today that included all the extra enhancements from the public safety levy if it had passed, and then you removed the third pot of the jail, the funding for the third pot of the jail, and you removed the 2 assistant DA positions, funding for those positions. Then you also removed any open positions. By removing funding for open positions, it removed an additional assistant DA from the prosecution budget. So my suggestion is to put that back on the table, or rather take it off the table, like put it back in the budget, like leave. I talked to the DA last night, and essentially last year they were funded for 7. He claims 8. You guys didn't give him the money for the 8th one or something, but you're essentially funded for 7 prosecutors. They were hoping with the levy passing they would go up to 9 to be able to prosecute the backlog of cases. But from what you guys discussed 2 weeks ago, you're now reducing that to 6. So they're going to have less deputy DAs, and that's where he said we wouldn't be able to prosecute low-level misdemeanors like shoplifting and disorderly conduct and trespass. So I don't know, just throwing that out there that should be back in the budget. If we're not cutting law enforcement, if we're not cutting personnel, I know he wasn't able to fill that position, but they were actively looking for it, and it's an important position. I mean, we certainly need 9 deputy DAs, but we can't get by with 6. It's not a situation we should be in. But I was just hoping to get that in, so maybe that could come up first thing at the budget meeting, and you guys could re-talk about that, because I know it kind of just like, you guys went past that really fast the last time. You just removed any open positions. It's kind of agreed upon, hopefully revisit that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. James Bennett.
James Bennett, Bandon.
And Jim, I know you wanted to comment on that Dunes agenda item, so if you have a little bit of a stack on your comments, that's fine.
Okay. So, as a longtime activist that's tried in the last 20 years, tried everything that activists try, I have a strong understanding of sustainable development. One of the first times I came here, I stated that anything that was a hub for commerce, tourism, or jobs is going to be extinguished. And it is often through the Molesting the Endangered Species Act, which they're doing this time, it is often an instrument that they use. But what I didn't realize, and I would have been much more effective over the years with my extensive efforts, is that sustainable development is joined at the hips with the consensus process run out of Oregon State, Portland State University, which they made a government agency. They took dispute resolution, which was a component of our legal system, and handed that responsibility to Portland State University and made them a government agency, which might sound benign enough, but it gives them a lot of power. They can collaborate with. They've collaborated with other countries and other legitimate government agencies, out of which is the National Policy Consensus Center, and all of the overreach that we see, and I'll underline and capitalize all, like I have before, all of the overreach that we see is not only the manifestation of sustainable development, just like this thing with the dunes, but it's all done through consensus. And after, some considerable effort, with the help of my associate, I drafted that proclamation, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you've been busy with your election, Bob, but I want to know, do you intend to work on generating a proclamation that is a ordinance that is pursuant to the proclamation that I've submitted to you?
Speaking for myself, I certainly intend to evaluate the potential efficacy of such a pursuit.
And, you know, the woman that I referred you to, Colleen Roberts, that's a rock star. I mean, she was recognized by Trump and invited to Washington and everything. On your next phone call, what you might do is ask if attacking the consensus process, which is completely diametrically opposed to our Constitution, you might ask her about her list of accomplishments in Jackson County, with them attacking it at its point of implementation, which is the consensus process.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to, you know, she's going to tell you that they've got a long list of accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next thing that they're going to do as an act of war, and make no mistake, guys, we're at war. It's unusual brand of warfare. It's both administrative, and it is bureaucratic, and it's institutional warfare. But you know, the next act of war that they're going to be doing, and they'll run this through the National Policy Consensus Center too, is they're going to be conducting these prescribed fires. And once again, just like the forest, you know, they call it fire management. They don't call it fire prevention. And their idea of fire management is deliberate prescribed fires. And they stopped them attacking the consensus process and other passages, constitutional passages in Jackson County. So I urge you to contact her again and work with her. And with respect to the budget, forgive me, but it reminds me of trying to have a really serious talk as to what to do about global warming. The postulate, the whole premise of the conversation is flawed. So a lot of these budget talks are, you know, to my mind, speaking within a construct that is Salem's construct and not a constitutional construct that would empower our autonomy and our sovereignty as a county. And if you stepped into the power that is constitutionally yours and attacked the consensus process, which is the means of implementation for them stealing your forest timber revenue. By the way, the Common School Fund, they've supplanted, I do believe, through the consensus crap. And between that and getting their tentacles away from all of our commerce in a Coos Bay that should be doing great, and taking away our hatch boxes and the plan to fail windmill crap, which is just completely debacle from the very, very beginning to the very, very end and everything in between. I ask you to take me to task if you think that, and I know you don't believe this, but if you think that there's not much to this consensus stuff that I keep blabbing about, talk to Colleen Roberts and see what their track record is defeating all of the overreach. And make no mistake, you can interchange the words overreach with the implementation of sustainable development, and they are synonymous in every single instance that I can think of, including this thing with the dunes. So anyway.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Is there anyone else who did not sign up for comment that would like to make a public comment at this time? Tim?
I'll say good morning, but it's good afternoon. Tim Pierce, Bandon, Oregon. I want to talk about your 2% sales tax. Number one, you talked about taxing people that are passing through. You don't apparently have a problem with taxing people that can't be represented. I think we threw some tea in a harbor about 250 years ago over that. People pay taxes. Even 1 penny, they should have a say in how that penny is spent. Serious issue with me. Number two, how about the 13th Amendment? There will be no slavery or involuntary servitude. Sales tax collection is slavery. You are forcing people to work for you, and if they don't, you will take them down with the law and even incarcerate them. It is slavery. And even if you pay them, they don't have to work for you. Sales tax is slavery. Don't fall for it. Thank you.
Well, I guess we could just leave your permanent property tax exactly as it is then, and you can continue to pay that instead.
Well, I'd rather do
we're
that
looking
than be
for
a slave.
we're looking for an improved alternative, not a diminished one. But anyway, you can have a different.
You can't trade one thing for another. You can't trade. I understand all this. I mean, you can't trade one wrong for another wrong. This is terrible. Forcing people to work for you.
All right, that's it. Let's just close the sheriff's department then. All right. Anybody else care to comment? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for being here, for participating in your local government. We work for you. We're adjourned.